So we all know that emo has had a little bit of a mini revival in the past few years. You had bands and artists like MGK, Willow, Olivia Rodrigo, Demi Lovato. All of them released pop-punk albums, but they definitely used the emo aesthetic. And now emo has invaded TikTok, and I wanted to see it all for myself. Is emo on TikTok really as cringe as people say? Before we move on, bring it in close, I can't argue about what is emo and what isn't emo anymore. Which bands are emo and which bands aren't emo anymore. Which wave of emo are we in? I'm just not strong enough to do it, and besides, most people think emo, pop-punk, and punk rock are the same thing anyway. And with the recent emo/pop-punk revival in the mainstream, a lot of people are discovering emo, or pop-punk, for the first time. And if they don't like the music, they definitely like the aesthetic. So, let's watch some cringy emo TikTok. So this is Kyler Gordan is Great. I feel like this is the most popular thing anyway that's come out recently as far as emo or the emo aesthetic on TikTok. So this is the one I wanted to start with. Immediately, first of all, Which Highway? That's great. Immediately, base level, you gotta give him credit for dressing up like this and going out to a mall, obviously a public place, so he gets, immediately he's got credit from me. My life is vomit. My life is shit now. My life is terrible. Okay, so he breaks character there a little bit. Yeah, he breaks character there. Can I catch it a little bit at the end? I don't want to expose Kyle here. Right there, you can see it at the end. But the song, I want to go through the music video. The whole song here is called My Life. Immediately, what comes to my mind is Simple Plan's Welcome to My Life. Like, is one more cringy than the other? I mean, I don't know, but they're both kind of cringy in their own way, I guess. And then here we have the music video, which I haven't watched. Oh, I immediately love the stuff on the left. See, that's nostalgic. I'm even on a little bit of a younger side, but even just this whole thing, I assume, is going to be pretty nostalgic. But even just the, what would you call it? The credits there in the bottom left. Kudos. That's one of the editors or someone, whoever put that in, they deserve a raise.
Complete fucking nightmare, aka I grew up in the United Waste of America, aka I'm a communist.
United Waste of America is pretty good. What are we, 57 seconds in, and this is just pure nostalgia. I'll put up, I'll see if I can get away with it with the copyright stuff, but this is just every Simple Plan, Good Charlotte, Sum 41, Jimmy Eat World video, yellow card from that era, where something was going on, maybe at like a party or in the school, and then the music video was cut up with scenes of the band playing with a bunch of people around them. That's what MGK and Youngblood did on their song. I'll put it somewhere here. I'm Not Okay. I think that's the title of the song. That's the same thing. And I know we'll talk about MGK a little bit later, and a lot of people blame him for all of this, but MGK ripped that up, and then I did a video on that before where you can see the comments on that MGK video. People are so excited and they're nostalgic for that sound. So I didn't think honestly that this video was gonna have layers. I wasn't like gonna bash it or anything because that's just not what I do, but this has got more layers than I expected, so kudos to Kyle here. Yeah, I really don't want to repeat myself, but this has got layers. This comedian or this TikToker, I was going to bring this up later in the video about that some of these TikTokers know what they're doing. They know the cringe level that they're putting out into the world. Kyle gets it. He's hit every nostalgic beat that the early 2000s did. The school, the cutting up, like I said earlier, with the band playing. He had the everybody taking photos, right? And this could be, immediately my mind goes to Freaks and Geeks in that opening. So I don't know if that's like an extra layer of what Kyle is doing here, but I actually respect it. He put in a lot of work to this, and I would imagine, well, what are we at? We're almost at 500,000 views, and what are people saying about it in the comments? Not only is the production level insane, but the song is actually a bop. I legit feel like I'm coming back to '05. Those were all the comments that were on the MGK and Youngblood video. It's the same thing. I literally remember this from MTV2 in the early 2000s. Unironically obsessed. Has awakened some deep primal part of me that has been dormant since 2013. I think this commenter means maybe in like 2004, unless they came up in the emo and pop punk revival of the 2010s like I did. That makes sense. I was in high school during that time, so that's kind of the big era for me. I burned the song on a disc using iTunes back in '07. I thought the $1.29 was expensive, but incredibly worth it. I'm going to give a like to that comment because that's another layered comment. I got nothing bad to say. I thought I was going to have some funny negative thing to say here, but Kyle Gordan's emo, I had a conversation with the emo council. We're all good. Kyler Gordan is in. Next up is Johnnie Guilbert. We're going to go to his music video for his song that's really popular, but this is someone I wasn't really familiar with. I know he's associated or on a podcast because I think I watched like a clip of that podcast and now it's like all over my TikTok feed. So I went on his TikTok and I saw like this video was one of them that popped up, and immediately, you know, we talked about the emo aesthetic earlier, and even more so than the music, the emo aesthetic and emo costume, you know, I've have that image, maybe I'll put it in here. When you know, Google emo, half of the first images that come up are just of like Halloween costumes or meme. Like nothing about emo music is brought up on like that page one of results. And he has the emo wig costume hair. What is that? The Cure, of course, some tattoos. A throat tattoo, spider, you know, we're ready to go. So let's check out the music video here for his song Vampire. You already know what I'm thinking of, right? Sink my teeth into me for my one last breath. Taking Back Sunday. I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt. What is it? With my one last dying breath, I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt. Nostalgia. We're hitting everything. And the song here, it's not, is it for me? Probably not. But if you stripped away, you know, who this song was by, you didn't know anything about, you know, this human, their online presence or anything like that, and you were just like, hey, this is some new emo or pop punk song, it sounds okay. It's not, there's way worse music being released than this. Next up is TX2. This is their song Black Wedding, and as I paused it here, again, we got the emo aesthetic. It looks like a kidnapping is about to happen. Let's play this out. Okay, definitely the heaviest song that we've heard so far. Okay, you know, probably the best put together song. It's up there with the Kyle Gordan song, but that song is such a parody, but it's got so many layers. I appreciate it. This kind of tries to be a little bit more serious, I think, and whoever put together the entire song kind of knew what they were doing, because it kind of works as a non-parody song compared to that Kyler Gordan song that we listened to earlier. One of the reasons I wanted to bring TX2 up is because they shared a short kind of going over the cringe factor and embracing it, so let's see what they say.
Do you want to know why I am so cringe? Or why people call me cringe? It's because I had to be, and here's what I mean. None of you would have listened or cared about another emo rock artist unless they were cringe. You see, none of my family was in the music industry, so I didn't have my easy in, and I came from a small town with no industry connections. So the only way I could ever join the music industry was blowing up organically through this app.
I kind of agree with the move here. I think it's a great marketing move if we want to talk about, you know, marketing in 2024. I think it's going cringe. I kind of get, because it's so hard to break through in 2024 through all the content that we have, you know, on our phones, and they went cringe, and that's how it got on my radar. I don't think I ever would have checked out a music video or a TikTok, even if I was scrolling on really pretty much anybody that I've talked about so far. So I guess the only hesitancy I would have is like, is this cringe stuff gonna follow me throughout my career? But I guess only time will tell, because all of these creators have this audience, and like I said, some of them lean into the cringe factor. So really, I kind of thought I'd have more like negative funny stuff to say, but almost everybody, definitely Kyler Gordan, understood the nostalgia, and he, you know, hook, line, and sinker, he got me. He hit all the emo, you know, nostalgia points. So was any of that stuff really for me? Not necessarily, but I didn't hate it. And, you know, what is cringe? Because, let's be honest, there was plenty of cringe in the early 2000s and even in the 2010s emo and pop-punk revival. I mean, you can just insert the I hate this town pop-punk meme right here. The music you become nostalgic for really happens in your teenage years, those coming-of-age years, high school and college. So I can totally see TikTok kids enjoying all the stuff that we heard, and they might not even get the jokes, because some of these older bands are, you know, it's like 20, 30 years ago. So when a lot of people think of nostalgic emo, they think of My Chemical Romance or Taking Back Sunday or Simple Plan. They aren't thinking of stuff from the 90s. Now, if you're an emo nerd, you might say that real emo is American Football, Sunny Day Real Estate, Rites of Spring, maybe The Promise Ring. Maybe there's some other band that I'm forgetting. But again, all those bands are old, 20, 30 years ago. The kids want something new. I'm actually with the emo TikTokers on this one, because most people think of the 2000s when they think of emo, which again makes sense because the 2000s were the height of emo, pop punk, and punk rock's popularity in the mainstream. That's a fact. I'm sorry if you don't like it, and you don't have to like it, but that's a fact. It's like when someone got mad at me in a different video because I said that American Idiot was the most successful punk rock album of all time. It is. By like every measurable number, it is. What does make me a little bit sad is because a lot of these emo TikTokers are influencers, these fans won't get to experience seeing them play a show to like 200 people. Even, I don't even know if any of these, no, TX2, I have seen a TikTok of them playing shows, so I know they play shows. But I would imagine the shows have got to be really successful if you have all these, you know, followers and all this engagement on social. Like for me, the thing that's popping in my head that I'm, you know, is such a memory that stuck with me. I got to see the story so far playing Chicago to like 200, 300 kids right after Under Soil and Dirt was released. And that's a memory that I'm always going to have. A lot of what's missing, and a lot of the reason I think these fans of these genres that we've been talking about, why they get so upset, you know, emo, pop punk, and punk rock fans are a tough crowd and are very hard to please. Trust me. A lot of them, what they don't like about these influencers is the inauthenticity, because it's come out that some of them are rich, or they might be industry plants, or, you know, nepotism, what have you. So on one side, it's like, well, you don't get to choose what kind of family you're born into. But then again, on the other side, you know, that would be like the definition, right, of selling out and being a poser, is just pretending that you come from, you know, some not great situation and sing about that when, you know, you're living in a mansion. So I get that too, especially when some of my favorite bands and some of even the popular bands in the emo, pop punk, and punk rock scene, like the biggest bands, are still, when they're going on tour, are sleeping in a Walmart parking lot in a van because they can't afford a hotel room. And with music being so devalued, I'm not gonna hate or make fun of somebody for promoting their music on TikTok. I understand why you know, punk fans or emo fans they don't like the TikTokification of alternative music, because when you think of like a hardcore punk band, you don't think of them taking their phone out and recording a TikTok to promote their song. But that's just where we are in 2024. You know, you got to get your engagement, and you got to put yourself on all these different platforms. I know it stinks. I know it's not ideal, but again, it's just kind of the situation that we're in. So is it cringe? Maybe, but you have to put so much effort in and so much content out to just maybe break out in, you know, the flood of content that we get every day. And even I have discovered a ton of great bands on TikTok. One of the ones that's popping in my head right now is Like Roses, one of my current favorite bands. And if it wasn't to TikTok, who knows how long it would have been, or maybe I never would have found them. Another band I found on TikTok, I believe, is called Rematch. I'll put them somewhere here in that one song. You know, again, it's so hard to promote your song. Albums don't really mean anything anymore. It's really just that a lot of people say TikTok songs when they mean a song that just repeats the chorus over and over again. But again, I don't want to say exactly what I just said, but that's the way of the world. That's what's going on right now. But Like Roses and Rematch are two bands that that I discovered. And, you know, if it wasn't for TikTok, who knows? I think MGK gets a lot of blame for the TikTok and emo craze because he really was the first artist in a long time that was... Whatever you think about MGK, I'm not here to, you know, defend MGK about anything. I don't even honestly pay attention to too much. I only paid attention to him when he started coming in the emo and pop punk scene. So I got nothing positive for the guy, nothing against the guy. But it was the first time in a long time such a mainstream artist did a huge pivot and was like, yes, I'm making emo music and pop punk music. I believe he said that specifically in one of his tweets, that it was like going to be a rock album, but no, it's going to be a pop punk album. And we hadn't seen anything like that from a mainstream artist in a long time. And trust me, in a few years, you're going to see MGK play Tickets to My Downfall in full at When We Were Young. I want to make it clear that that wasn't a joke. When We Were Young, or maybe if the Vans Warped Tour comes back, they should immediately book MGK. I think a lot of people grew up and listened to Tickets to My Downfall, and that might be their first, you know, exposure to emo or pop punk. It really just makes sense. So it would make sense for them to be nostalgic the same way that people, you know, now are nostalgic for bands like The Story So Far or Modern Baseball or Title Fight. Pick whatever band you want. It makes a lot of sense. And plus, I just want one of those fests to book MGK because that day on Twitter would be amazing. I'd love to see the chaos. And if we blame Machine Gun Kelly, some blame has to go on Travis Barker. He's basically drumming on almost all of these songs. None of the ones that we previewed earlier, but every time a mainstream artist is like, hey, I want to make a rock/pop punk song, it always seems like Travis Barker is there in the music video drumming. Speaking of Travis Barker, listen to Kenny Hoopla and their song Estella. That is a great pop punk song. And I know it might be wishful thinking, but hopefully this leads to all of these TikTok kids getting into emo, and maybe they discover new and current younger bands in the scene. Bands like Ben Quad or Origami Angel or some of my favorites, Future Teens. I mean, there's so many more bands, I can't realistically list them off here, but hopefully that's what happens. That's the most positive outcome I can, you know, see of all this, you know, emo and TikTokification of emo, pop punk, and punk rock. Because one thing I don't want to do is gatekeep. That is why I officially declare on behalf of the Emo Council that we welcome all cringe, we welcome everyone to enjoy emo peacefully. Please leave a like on the video, it really helps out the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't, tell all your friends, and thanks for watching.